Please be aware this will be a spoiler-filled discussion. Hello and welcome to the Minority Arts Appreciation Society, where we're ticking all the boxes and providing the minority opinion in popular internet discourse. I'm Tilly, my pronouns are she and her, and I lead the film discussions.
I'm Josh, my pronouns are he and him, and I lead the music discussions.
And today, we're back with a new film episode. We're going to be talking about Pedro Almodóvar's latest feature film, Parallel Mothers. This is following up Pain and Glory and The Human Voice. We've both seen Pain and Glory, I believe, and you've seen The Human Voice.
I have.
And this is our.
Unfortunately,
this is our. Yeah, I know you're not too keen on it. This is actually our second time talking about him on the podcast. For last time he was here, it was ended up being very positive. We were talking about Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, which you kind of convinced me was a very, very clever film. Just like doing the irony thing of sometimes going under the radar. But yeah.
I mean, what a strange journey we are on with Pedro. Like, I feel like going from Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, this like weird late 80s irony poisoned thing, to Parallel Mothers is such a weird thing. I do definitely think this is very much feels like in line with the mode he was in with Pain and Glory. Like watching this.
Yeah, 100%. He's gone very, very sentimental. Which, I mean, I really like Pain and Glory. I don't think you are nearly as keen on it as me.
Yeah, so I feel very similarly to this film than I do about Pain and Glory, where I do think these are both good films. Like I really respect them. There is like auteur shit happening here that I think is really cool. He really, actually, we can get into this a bit, but he really reminds me of Wes Anderson, honestly. The way he writes, I think they're really similar, and I'll justify that stance a bit. But, yeah, I don't like his general style, or at least the mode he is currently in. It is very sterile to me, and a bit too muted.
Pedro Almodóvar is a very interesting director for us. I feel like he brings out. I mean, I think we just disagree a lot on his films because I genuinely got nothing out of this as a viewing experience. I was actually really looking forward to talking about this because I found this a really frustrating film to watch, mainly because I found every part of it so inconsequential. I really was watching it and just pondering to myself, like, I feel like baby swap movies have been done before, and I feel like they've been done with more involving characters.
I'm a bit more charitable of the plotline here. But the baby swap line is like literally a plot point in The Office US as like a joke, and like accidentally switching babies in the maternity ward. All right, it is it's fair to call it trite. That's fair.
And I didn't find this film offering like really much else. And it wants you to like. It's not about, so it's a personal film inflicted with this kind of historical political twist with the excavation of her great grandfather's grave, but it isn't kind of a grand meta narrative or anything. It really wants you to be invested in the journey that these characters are going on. Like the form of the film really tells you that. The music hams up every time there's like a tense scene or not a tense scene, but an emotional moment, like in the instances where she finds out that it's not her child and that it is in fact Anna's and such things. And I found it's those scenes really hurt the film for me, not because they were doing anything wrong by existing, but they really brought home like just how much I didn't care. And I think the film does very little to like justify why anyone should care, in my opinion.
I'm very shocked hearing it right now, because I thought this would be me defending why I felt really cold watching this. Even though I
had a feeling that would happen.
Because I do think the performance given by Banderas in Pain and Glory in the second half, when emotionally the film is breaking down a bit, is like really compelling stuff. Even though I think that film's leaves me cold as well somehow. I do think that it gets to those raw emotions hit a bit better. In this film, there's a weird ambivalence to the writing that was kind of in Pain and Glory as well, but it feels more accentuated here. And I didn't know if it was just me or if it was a thing. And that's why it reminded me a bit of Wes Anderson, because you got heavy use of like block coloring, symmetry, kind of every set looks like IKEA. In Wes Anderson, I love Wes Anderson's style. In Wes Anderson, it looks like a really kitschy painting. It's really gorgeous. In Pedro's films, they look like Apple commercials to me. And I kind of respect the boldness of that choice, but it doesn't appeal to me. Like it literally reminds me of the literal Apple advert Spike Jonze made with FK Twigs. You know, where it's really well directed, really gorgeous, but it is a sterile, clean thing. I think that's what he's going for, I guess. It's interesting. He's got his own aesthetic world happening, but writing aside, that emotionally is a real blockage for me. Even though I do think these characters are interesting.
But I think comparing this with we already have, and we will continue to talk about this with Pain and Glory, because I think they are doing the same thing. This is a distinct phase in his career. But the characters in Pain and Glory are like so weird and like multifaceted. Like the scene where Antonio Banderas turns up at his like old actor sort of apprentice's flat and just kind of incidentally like starts taking heroin is so like weirdly life affirming to me. I love how like unexpected the character's decisions are in the light of the very like laid back tone of that film. Like when characters make decisions like that in that film, it's really weird because the film doesn't really react to it. And like it's just kind of happening, and I love that. It kind of makes it feel like a much more intimate portrait of someone's life, because it doesn't feel the immersion doesn't stop and the film suddenly tells you it's a movie. Whereas like in this film, I kind of hesitate to like even bring this up because it just feels so like juvenile as a criticism, but I really like Penelope Cruz does a lot with, I think, a really underwritten character. I think her performance like kind of like with the new Batman film, as we were talking about, is lifting otherwise very little material, basically. But even still, I'm really like apathetic to all of the decisions she makes. I don't feel like I have any context for them. I don't feel like I have any sense of herself outside of this conflict. She's just very bland, and things would happen in this film, and instead of that like kind of incidentality of Pain and Glory, it felt much more like a kind of plodding along, like a kind of like when, for example, her and Anna like enter into a really brief relationship. I was just kind of like, oh, is this what the film's doing now? Like, okay, cool, like fine. I didn't I didn't feel like I was watching characters. I just felt like I was watching these like pawns kind of drift about their existence, doing whatever. I was profoundly bored.
Okay. I think that the writing behind Penelope Cruz's character is strong, and I think that it's strong because it's operatic. The criticism that she doesn't always feel like these don't feel like real people; these feel like pawns. It's fair. However, I do think it's written that way to a purpose. The narrative of the two mothers and their kind of babies being swapped, and one of them dying early, right? And this kind of delayed grief, this kind of it is in parallel to the the very Spike Lee ending of the film, where it makes it very clear that this was a political statement about families who are robbed of grief, and proper kind of stages of remorse in losing ancestors in the war. And so all that stuff you're saying about kind of it not feeling as kind of lived in as a Pain and Glory kind of worked for me. Like, there is something very, I think I've used this word in a past podcast, but there's clearly something very hauntological about her relationship with the baby. Like, it's the concept of almost like inverse postnatal depression, where it's not that she had a baby, she couldn't connect to it, and that's where the depression comes from. But the weird plot turn where like she had a kid, she loved the kid, and then realized the kid isn't hers and her real kid kind of died a long time ago. Due to some freak accident. That kid, its old existence is a haunting in her. The grief for something that was robbed of her, and something that Anna Milena Smith's character doesn't even let her kind of have, right? With just taking the other child away. Is a really, in my opinion, a really kind of weird and cool metaphor for the grief that is robbed, this war, after war crimes are committed, and the bodies are kind of don't get proper burials. So if I viewed as a metaphor, as like the whole film is kind of a singular political statement about that kind of violence, I think it works.
Two things. I think as a metaphor, it really it's a great idea. I just think the film doesn't do anything with it. Like I never feel like confronted or conflicted, and I don't think the film really does enough to stick the landing of the of those final moments. Basically, I just like so much of the film feels like kind of so much of the film feels aimless, that when it actually comes to what it's trying to say, it feels incredibly underdeveloped. And also it's just the other dimension of the film, which is it at the same time as having this, like lots of films do this, and like like with allegory and metaphor and everything, where they also want you to care about like the immediate drama. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I just like I don't think it straddles that line very well of like the personal and the political.
I see what you mean. Like, in Sorry to Bother You, I do care about the relationship with Zazie Beetz, even though it is operating as part of the larger metaphor.
Exactly. Like I like I've forgotten the actor's name. Oh, that's really annoying. I really like him. I like the protagonist of Sorry to Bother You. Lakeith Stanfield, and I enjoy watching like the Sorry to Bother You makes its political allegory entertaining through comedy and horror, and Time Me Down. Parallel Mothers attempts to do it through drama and like the personal, and it's just so like profoundly underwritten that I don't know how this kind of like passed. I know I said this like a very short time ago, but this like I don't mind when films tackle concepts like that have like that are cliches and things like that. I think especially a director like, I mean, we've seen another film of his that takes on cliche and does like wonderful, hilarious things with it. I think Pedro Almodóvar is a great director for tackling cliche, and instead he kind of has just contributed to it. Like he's just done the thing, and I found this film like bafflingly boring.
Yeah. Okay. Even though thus far I have defended what I did like about the film, there is a couple other things I do like about the film. And I'll just rattle them off before I get negative. For instance, it kind of has the mumblecore. There is no characters don't say angry at each other, and there aren't like forced conflicts too much. Kind of there is at some point with the relationship breaking down, but with the with Arturo's character, I really liked how blankly Arturo's character is presented. Like there is no moralizing with this like guy whose wife has cancer and he's having an affair with character. It is the most reasonable scene of someone asking someone else not to have an abortion I've ever seen. Like in any other film, I should hate this guy, but I'm like, you know what? Let's hear him out. Like throughout the film, I was just like, this guy, he's all right. Like he sees the baby, and he's like, that's not my kid, and you think he's a shit, but he's just right, and he's just fine, and he's never like mad at her or controlling. He really just wants to be present in her life and help with the kid, and he does love her, but he isn't like pushy out his love. Like he just very plainly says, I do love you, I want to be with you. When she doesn't want that at that point in the film, he's just like very calm about it. And when he's talking about like his divorce, he's like, oh yeah, I told my wife about us and we got a divorce. And he's not even distraught. He's just like, I just wanted to be honest. It was just the most weird, like unmoralized presentation of a man who's in a crumbling marriage and having an affair. And I found that character like really funny and comforting in a weird way. Like it was just a really unique way of writing that kind of character. I don't know why.
I was gonna go on to say like my one positive with the film was exactly that. Like another example is when Anna leaves and like after finding out that Cecilia is her child, and what's the protagonist's name?
Penelope Cruz. I'm joking. Janice, I think. I
Yeah.
Janice.
I think it's Yanis.
Yanis.
Because,
we can call
after
her
finding
Cruz.
out Yanis is like finding out Cruz. After finding out Yanis has kept that from her, she leaves, and like she's understandably like, devastated. And then she just like shows up at the end, and look when she's having this moment, and everything's kind of fine. And like from like a Hollywood or like a very American like narrative sensibility, that's terrible and like a cardinal sin. But I thought that was a really nice.
You gotta have
like,
that montage at the beginning of the third act after the two characters have fallen out and they both miss each other, and then they make up. You gotta do it. It's the rules.
You gotta do it. You gotta tick that box, bitch. No, like she shows up at the end, and I think it really was a testament to the way they'd established Anna's maturity earlier on in the film. I thought Anna was like the best written character in the film. I really liked just how self-assured she was, and not in a kind of like girl bossy, like like this is she's cool, she's a single mom and she can do it kind of way. She was just like a really like grounded person who had dealt with a really like difficult life and come out of it the other side, a very self-assured person. And yeah, so when there was no like grand resolution to that conflict, and it was clear actually in fact that the difficulty between them had given them a sort of like new like edge, a new like positive edge to their friendship, a deeper connection. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I had a real, I had a real like I thought it was interesting. I don't think the film was really interested in this question because it is very much about like a very singular political kind of statement. But like when you realize the baby's a switch, I was like, man, an interesting question here is one of like what is what makes a mother? You know, is it biological or is it the time spent with the kid? And when Anna was like, I'm taking my baby now, after finding out like it's hers, even though Penelope Cruz's character has raised the baby for like a you know, quite a long time at this point.
Yeah,
I was honestly expecting like a Lighthouse style fight, and for the film to just completely break down into like surrealism as like she just like beats this woman to death, like, don't take my baby. Because I was like, man, that like I landed on the side of, you know what, even though biologically it's not hers, it is her kid. Like they have bonded, they are like latched to each other. You can't take her kid. I thought Ada was like so cruel in that scene. I was like, this is the worst thing you can do. This is horrible. I understand legally the world would not agree with me, but the film isn't really interested in that question, so I got no satisfaction from how it resolved, I guess. So, yeah.
No, honestly, I had the exact same kind of impulse. But, like, it would have made, because it would have justified the kind of complete narrative apathy this film seems to have to itself up until this point, which, like, I don't like. I feel like that says a lot about this film. That I feel like it was willing. It was so underwritten for me that I feel like it was willing to like throw itself out of the window for like, you know, a genre subverting horror sequence. Like I really thought that was about to happen, and it would kind of have justified everything up until this point. I don't know how I feel about Anna's actions during that scene. I mean, what Cecilia did is I kind of didn't want to end up talking about the like moral implications of what Cecilia did, because it's really not relevant to the film, and therefore it's just like an abstract like moral conversation that ultimately doesn't like mean anything because it's not real, even though I'm sure maybe something like this has happened at some point. Yeah, I don't know. I think I could understand either side really in terms of like how you feel about what Anna did in that scene.
Yeah, it's messed up, but I think it was Meet the Robinsons where the origin of my like strong stance that your parents are the ones who were there for you, not the ones who like give you the genes. You know that scene where he goes back to meet his mum and then he sees her leaving him on the doorstep and he's like, you know what, my real family were the Robinsons all along.
Yeah.
You know?
What's Meet the Robinsons though?
What? Like the film?
What is that?
You don't know Meet the Robinsons?
No, not at all.
An incredible Disney movie from 2007. Oh, it's from like the slump era of Disney.
No, this looks like Boltcore, dude.
No, yeah, it's from that era of Disney, but it is the best one from that era, and it's absolutely goated. Sorry for spoiling the entire film for you, but
no, that's
goated.
Fine, only. But I'm not really in the market for Boltcore. So
no, it's not Bolt. It's different to Bolt. It's a different director. It's so good. It's oh god damn it. Okay, it is the guy who did Bolt, but it's better than Bolt.
It really is the guy who did Bolt.
Anyway, whatever. But yeah, no, so that is a failing of the film, right? That kind of the thematic through line is so narrowed that it can end up reducing itself. Like, I think what's so great about recent films in recent years that we consider some of the best ever come out, like Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Lighthouse, Raw, and Titanium, is it's impossible to pin down one metaphor that explains the whole film. There's so many weird and evocative kind of angles you can go at it from, and I feel like if you pick apart those films at any level and try to think, why is this character behaving like this, you come up with like 3 different essays that go completely different directions. Because here, I don't think the film supports readings about kind of questions of eternity and like who the child really belongs to and like that. It is, I think it is pretty singularly focused on kind of post-war breathing.
But it's
that's a good theme, but I do think that is the limit of the film, maybe.
I honestly just wish it had been a more dominant part of the narrative. Maybe if her relationship, because you do meet her like great aunt towards the end, if the relationship she had with her family was more like thoroughly intertwined with the conflict that's going on, it would kind of just have more going on. But as it feels stands,
a bit shoehorned, like that part of the plot.
Yeah, well, I get, like, I actually really like that kind of writing of like leaving being just basically being incredibly lackluster with how much you signify your allegory, you know. But it's right now the film is just missing so much. I don't want to bang on, but yeah, I just like I can't imagine like writing this and just feeling like this story has enough in it to justify itself. But you were going to talk about stuff that you didn't feel great about in this film, because I've talked a lot about that. What didn't work about this for you?
Well, I think I said that a little bit with how how singular the film can be. I guess one thing is I never really felt the emotion of relationship that the two mothers end up having in the film. I felt I really bought into Anna's kind of anxiously trying to her lingering gazes and trying to figure out if Penelope Cruz's character is attracted to her. There's moments when before they kiss, but they will start living together. I thought that was really good, and I felt that romantic anxiousness in the scenes. But ultimately, I don't know what the point of that plot line is.
No,
and it's nice to see. I don't know. It was just a bit like it was nice when they were walking through the park with the baby and like holding hands.
Yeah,
but
that was cute.
By the end, I was like, "What was the point of that whole bit of the film?" That was
I know.
I don't know what to do with that.
What I thought was going to happen potentially was that ultimately they would. I know there's like a significant age gap between them, but like ultimately they would end up in a long-term relationship, and Anna would be in a maternal role, and like ultimately she would be Cecilia's mother either way, and so it wouldn't really matter who was the biological mother and who was just, and like, you know, who was raising her, because sort of both of them got to experience both sides of that. I thought that'd be like a I don't know if that would actually be a good ending, but I just thought that was the way it was going, and I don't want us to like default to the kind of like the kind of Western like narrative demands that we just criticized, but at the same time, as it stands, yeah, like I got so little out of that like 10-minute story beat that I kind of have to criticize like what it's, or at least just like ask, you know, like to the world, like what was that doing?
Oh my goodness. I just found out. So like, I was looking for the perfect Meet the Robinsons clip. It's like 20-second clip just to show you. Like, no, it's like a 6-second clip, and I'm just to show you that this film is jokes. Okay, this is a real ass film. And I found out. I was like, how are they being remembered? And I found out that Bolt already is like a higher aggregate review score than Meet the Robinsons at 89%. I'm like, who are these people who gave Bolt such high scores?
I know, like, there are people that remember these films from their childhood and are like, I have to go back and make sure Bolt is remembered fondly.
You can edit out this. I did just zone out and start thinking about Meet the Robinsons a bunch.
That's fine.
But yeah, sorry.
That's fine. Well, in that case, then we can start doing our recommendations. We talked about this for this film that inspired I've got enough out of a film that inspired extremely little emotion for me at this point. Like I felt absolutely nothing watching this film. I really mean that. Every time there was an emotional beat, like it was constantly undercutting itself. I'm really baffled by its existence, honestly. But the political, historical side of it, I think, like, has a lot of potential, and kind of, it does explain like why it exists. But you know, the actual film that exists as it is barely about that for me, and I've said everything I can about this. I give this a pretty. I give this a decent not recommend. I'm very close to a strong, but purely because it's not, you know, like, it doesn't totally fail. Like it's a cohesive narrative that like doesn't fall apart. But but also it doesn't matter ultimately. Fuck it. Yeah, like, don't watch this. I think, like, if you're looking for like a touching story about motherhood, there are other movies that exist. I'm not gonna name them, but yeah. Josh, what about you?
Yeah, I did not expect this at all. This is a very weird outcome for me, and I feel sorry for you. You haven't liked a film for maybe 6 episodes, really.
Oh my god! Oh yeah, what the fuck's going on?
I hate to be in a position where I'm like really positive about a film that I too feel pretty ambivalent towards. But hey, I think the caveat here is that this isn't really a film about motherhood. It's a film about post-war trauma, and the families who carry that weight. So if you're interested in that, then I'd give this a weak recommend for kind of the exploration of that theme. But if you're not interested in that, I would give it a not recommend. Like, if you want a really good mum film, I don't think this is the one. So I'm giving it like a shadow weak recommend, like a very conditional week recommend. It's depending on what you want out of the film, but I think it's okay. Yeah. I think it's fine. Yeah, I wouldn't think about it again probably for a while, and it hasn't summoned much passion in me. But I wasn't as angry about the film as Tilly was. You know, I left the cinema feeling that was worth £6. That was all right.
Yeah, fair.
And I appreciate the mutual sentiment. Nice. I appreciate the political sentiment because it's something I relate to a lot. I think these emotions kind of, the whole thing of post-slavery is, erasing history. So the final quote about like, you will never take away our history. I was like, yeah, I can get behind that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
even if the film didn't like make me feel those emotions vividly through its story making. I can get behind the message.
Yeah, I get that. Well, with that said, what are we talking about next week?
Next week we are doing another 2022. Sorry, let me start again. Next week we're doing another 2021 boxes episode. Just to burn through that summer for him, and we're going to be doing a smaller project, Yves Tuma's EP, the asymptotic, the asymptotical. No, it's spelled asymptotical. The asymptotical world EP. The follow-up to their incredible album,
World.
To a Tortured Mind. And we've got a huge album, the next 2021 boxes. So I thought it would be nice just to do a EP, very kind of
cute,
distinct songwriter. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. This is my first. That'll be my first Yves Tuma project. And we haven't done an EP on the podcast in years. Not since Dark Comedy, which did we even actually release? Have we ever?
A special episode of? No, we didn't.
No, it got like lost. So we never have. Oh wow. Not formally, at least. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you very much for listening. I've been Tilly. That's Parallel Mothers. Leave a comment if you think I was really mean about it and you love all of his films. In which case, I'm sorry. But, stick up for yourself, basically.
Yeah. Maybe because I hated the human voice so much. When I watched this, I was like, oh, this is a real film. I can judge this as an actual film.
Yeah,
this isn't just actual trash. Maybe that.
Maybe that's why. This guy is I think he's made some good films, but I think he can really make some trash, and I think it makes. I think people are too forgiving. I don't think he's I don't think he's one of the greats. I think he just has made some of the greats. Well, yeah, thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.